15, 2017 is now called to order. Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Betcha.
City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Cooper.
Here.
Councilmember Goodspeed.
Here.
Here.
City Attorney.
Here.
Finance Director.
Here.
Public Safety Director.
Here.
City Engineer.
Here.
City Clerk. Here.
Thank you. Lacking a quorum for tonight's meeting, we would dispense with the regular agenda and proceed to the notices, communications, and announcements. It would be my intent to survey the council members and work with staff to schedule a special session next week when we can have a quorum.
That would be advisable, given the sensitive timing of the projects that need to happen. Our bond counsel, Pat McGow from Miller Canfield, is here tonight. I think
Okay.
it would be worthwhile to have him speak a little bit about the process, at least for the benefit of the council members that are here, and this is being videotaped as well, so it'll be on PEG, and other council members can view that as well.
Okay, I will do that. First, I'll ask is, are there any citizens that wish to make comment tonight? If not, we will proceed with the bond.
Thank you. Pat, do you want to make a few comments about what the process is and notice of intent?
Sure, great. Thank you. Good evening. For those that don't know me, my name is Pat McGow. I'm an attorney. I've worked with the city on their financing projects for a number of years, both buildings as well as water and sewer issues. So I know that you've been discussing for a while now the Wet Weather Corrective Action Program, which is being required of the city to essentially this final step in a multi-year, multi-decade process dealing with some of the CSO issues. And the city has had a lot of discussions with the DEQ and what you need to do in order to get your next discharge permit. And right now, the project itself isn't exactly clear what is required, but what is clear is there needs to be a significant amount of investigation as phase one, and then figure out what's needed for phase two. So in order to pay for that, the city has looked at a variety of options and has several different options, including funding through the U.S. Federal government through the Rural Development Office. Rural Development offers 40-year loans at low interest rates to small communities for water and sewer projects, and the city is eligible for financing through them. When any of these projects go for financing, whether it's a loan through the rural development, whether it's a bond that's sold in the open market, or a bond that goes through the state revolving fund, all of which are options that the city has pursued in one way or another in the past, it requires the city to go through a process to issue a bond, which is essentially memorializing your obligation to pay back the loan. So whether we go to rural development, an open market bond, or the state SRF, the city has to go through the same steps it would legally in order to issue a bond payable from the rates and charges to the water and sewer system customers, and go through that process regardless of where the funding is going to come from. In order to issue bonds, it's really a multi-step process. The first step, once you have identified the project amount, is to adopt a notice of intent resolution which indicates the intent to issue bonds. This authorizes the publication of a notice in the newspaper that informs the citizens that the city intends to issue bonds in an amount not to exceed X dollars. And then that allows the voters, if they want to submit referendum petitions to require an election on the bond issue. An election is not required unless a petition is filed within 45 days. Once that procedure is done, then really it's a matter of getting the project pulled together and coming back for a later meeting of the City Council to actually authorize a bond. So what we were looking to do tonight was that first step in the process, which was the approval of a notice of intent resolution, which would be the first step of a multi-step process to issue the bonds. The way that that's been worded, because we don't know exactly the size or scope of the improvements, but yet wanting to make sure it incorporated the range of possibilities, was that was written rather broadly to allow for the issuance of bonds up to $25 million, which I know is the big number on what it could be depending on what's found. in one or more series and for a period of up to 40 years. That's really designed to give the city the most flexibility on the financing. That would allow you to do a rural development loan, an open market bond issue, and really any amount up to that amount that's needed based on whatever the engineers find with the investigative phase. As you know, there's a rather tight timetable that's been imposed on the city to have this investigatory work done within the next 12 months so that the plan is in place to figure out what's needed for the actual improvements. So essentially, the plan that we've talked about is really to, if approved by the city, would be to have the first financing be a small bond issue to cover the investigatory work that would be done relatively soon to allow the engineers to do all the scoping and the investigations that's needed, and then come back to the city once there's a plan for you to decide what actual work would be done, and then there would be a second phase, which would be that financing. So that's essentially what's incorporated into this action item, which is really to give the city the flexibility and the direction to move forward with a financing, first the investigation, and then later the actual work for the construction. But again, in either case, the notice of intent resolution by itself doesn't obligate the city to do anything. It doesn't mandate that you go ahead with bonds on any timetable. It really is the first step in what is a multi-step process that then allows you later to decide how much is going to be issued and how, and that would have to come back to the council for approval before any debt was actually authorized. So that's kind of it in a nutshell in terms of what the action item was that was before you tonight. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions about the financing options, the resolution, or the bond process in general. And as you know, Sean is here to talk, if you want to, about the corrective action plan and that timetable as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
John, if you could come forward for a moment, please. I do, with all the work that's been done thus far, under the SAW grant and all the televising and flow monitoring and all that, how much investigative work do we still have to go before we actually can formulate a plan for corrective action?
So the SAW grant, it was set up to inventory and condition assess the system. We've done, on the sanitary side, we've done about 2/3 of the system, televising. And that assessment is just for the condition of it. So it's a structural assessment. So when they do the televising, they come back and they tell us whether the pipe's, good, fair, or poor, and that's whether it's remaining service life on it. What the SAW grant did not do at all was fund looking for infiltration and inflow. Now we see that as part of it. It's kind of a side benefit we're getting. We're knowing a lot about the system. But the corrective action plan that the MDEQ has imposed upon us is where they really want us to look for where is your inflow and infiltration sources, quantify them, look at how you can eliminate them, and then balance that against storing that water or, getting rid of it, somehow putting it in a storm sewer. So there's a condition on one side with the SAW, and then there's this whole analysis for inflow and infiltration that we need to do as part of the corrective action program. We're going to leverage in all the SAW work, but there's still 1/3 of the city to televise. We'll be doing smoke testing, a lot of field work with dye testing, going manhole to manhole, trying to figure out where things are connected. And that's laid out, and we've presented it before, but it's laid out in that very detailed corrective action plan we wrote up for the DEQ. And it's probably 4 or 5 pages long, outlining every step they're requiring us to go through. So I'd like to say the SAW grant would take care of that, but it really is got a different purpose.
That wasn't the intent.
Right.
Do we have some pretty good ideas of what we're looking at, or is it still pretty vague?
The things we know today are the CSO, good or bad, is a good measuring stick as to what could be expected for sizing a basin, for example. So we've had, since we started detailed monitoring with our measuring devices in place, we've had 22 events, and they've been anywhere from a couple 100,000 gallons up to 12 million gallons. And the DEQ has some requirements in terms of size of storms you use to size the basin. So looking at that and kind of interpolating some things, we know we could be 3 to 6 million gallons in storage if we do not find anything else in the system. If we can't eliminate an inflow source. If there's a big parking lot someplace we find that's tied in, we get rid of it, that could save, 200, 300,000 gallons, and that's dollars saved towards storage. So we have ideas just from the CSO monitoring. We have ideas where the really poor pipe in the system is that's very leaky. We can see that in the televising data, but we'll need to quantify that and figure out where some of these surface water sources are. Those are the ones that really cause the CSOs.
I know we're putting the cart before the horse right now with this question. Can't we, other communities have put like a tube or balloon and then like sealed around the pipes, you know what I mean, made like an inner liner? What's the chances of that ever happening with us?
Very likely it actually will happen. I'm almost certain of it. It's, they call it in-place lining or cured in-place lining, and they put a sock inside the pipe and they put water in it, heat it up, and then it cures in place. Essence gives you another 50, 75, 100 years of life out of that pipe. And that seals infiltration off, and we will absolutely be doing that. And that's one of the methods we'll need to balance against, putting that in for so many dollars a foot versus storing that water at a big basin next to the wastewater treatment plant. And so we're gonna have to go through a whole analysis where some pipes are really leaky or they have inflow, and it's very cost effective to line them and get rid of it, where other ones might not be that bad and they're kind of marginal, where it's almost better just to let that go down to the plant and then store it and treat it. And that's a whole process we'll have to do, is to balance those methods kind of out in the system versus collecting it at the end of the pipe.
Okay. I know they say it's unbelievable cheaper or less expensive than obviously tearing the whole.
Right, that's the whole issue, is you don't have to rebuild a road. There's some places we might want to rebuild a road, but that's the savings, is it's done all below grade and not with a lot of impact to the roads and streets and other utilities.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. Skipping forward to notices, communications, and announcements, we have a report from the Manistee County Historical Museum, Historical District, and Manistee Area Chamber of Commerce. A regular part of each council meeting is a report from a cooperating agency, organization, or department. At this time, Mr. Mark Federer will report on the activities of the Manistee County Historical Museum / Historic District and respond to any questions the council may have regarding their activities.
Thank you. All right. I am Mark Feder, and I am the director of the Manistee County Historical Museum. Always glad to talk to City Council every year and to tell them what we've been up to at the museum of late. As per usual, I'm gonna break this down into three brief segments. One is the Historic District Commission, 2 is the Lighthouse, and then finally 3 is what we've been up to at the actual museum itself.
Where is that?
I'm sorry?
Where was that?
This shot here?
Yes.
This is looking right in front of 2nd Street, looking to the north. So you see the Holy Trinity Episcopal Church right there, and kind of the more in the right-hand side.
The house right in front of it?
There you go. It's a beautiful shot. Lots of neat stuff to analyze in that photo. With the Historic District Commission, I realize that there's been a lot of discussion of late about the Historic District Commission and everything that's been involved with that. I'm not going to recap the minutia of every meeting and every discussion over the last year. I'm just going to briefly surmise what I've been involved with and a number of the projects that actually have been approved pretty easily. Per my duties through the museum, I have approved about 8 different signs for the businesses in the Historic District. That's just kind of part of what I do. The Historic District Commission entrusted me to kind of be the sign off on the various signs in the district. And so I've done about 8 of those so far since last August to this August. I've also approved about 5 different portions of paint colors that also goes through me. That's considered routine repair and maintenance, and so I've also done that as well. I've also worked with new building owners and planning and zoning to research aspects of the buildings in the district. This requires a lot of time and a lot of effort for the museum, trying to figure out when these buildings were built, who built them, who worked there, perhaps who lived there, as well as digging through all of our archives to find photos. We don't have a documentation of every single building when it was built, but for most of them we do. And so that's just kind of a portion of kind of what I do and what I've done during this past year. There were approval of multiple projects, including the paint colors and the fixing up of the routine repair and maintenance of the building at 431 River Street, which is the former Gardner building. Rachel Brooks, Rachel and Bill are the owner of this building, and they have done a marvelous job, an outstanding job with the paint colors and the repair of the front entrance. And I think it's kind of a nice gem on the corner of Oak and River Street, and a lot of people have complimented her and myself about it, so it really turned out great. The Historic District Commission also approved all of the repair and, well, basically the whole darn project there at the North Channel Brewing Company. And this is kind of the early segment of what they started out with. They've done so much, and hopefully they'll be open soon. But the Historic District Commission approved that, and it really is coming along great. The Historic District Commission also approved the building at 337 River Street, which is the former H&K building. This, of course, is a bit of an eyesore. We could all kind of agree, and it was near demolition. But the Historic District Commission, as well as the owner, purchased it and has been fixing it up and is currently in the process of fixing it up. So that's another project that has been approved. And also the rear entrance of the library, which I believe just started yesterday, was another project that was approved by the HDC with they're going to redo the whole entrance there, and I think it's going to be really a nice addition to the library. Those are just a couple of brief projects. Do you have any questions that I can answer in regards to the Historic District Commission? While I'm up here, I have a brief question myself in regards to the study that is going to be done on the redistricting of the boundaries of the district. I wasn't privy to any of the conversations at all, and I've been kind of left out of the dark. But I guess my question is in regard to, maybe council or city staff can inform me if this has anything to do with the former Glicks building and that kind of chunk of property there. Was that the reason why the study is being done, or is it just kind of the basic, we just kind of want to see if there's anything we can do to shorten up the boundaries of the district or make bigger boundaries, or what exactly? I guess I wasn't really privy to any of those conversations.
I'm not aware that any particular building has prompted the action.
Okay.
There's been some expressed concern from council on getting things through the Historic District Commission in the past, and I think it's a starting process. I believe, Mr. Saylor, that in reviewing the commission, and so this was the first step.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
But there's no
set agenda.
There's no presumptions that I'm aware of.
I was just curious. Like I said, I've kind of been left out of the dark of it, and haven't really discussed it much, and so I just kind of wanted to know of my own accord. If there are no further questions on the HDC, I'm going to continue on with the lighthouse. As we all know, the lighthouse was painted last summer in 2016, and I think we can all agree that really turned out great. And the museum has received nothing but compliments on it, and lots of visitors who come and get their lighthouse passport stamped at the museum have had a lot of good to say, not nothing good to say, have had a lot of good to say. So I think that's something we can all be proud of. This year has been kind of let's sit back and kind of figure out what the next step is for the future plans of the lighthouse. And What we kind of hope to do at some point in time is to get the interior of it painted and open for the public to at least go inside and kind of look around a little bit. So that's kind of what we have planned for. Steve Harold, who's the former museum director and the current lighthouse coordinator, is going to be kind of looking toward those plans next year. So we kind of hope to continue on with that. And I think that's something we can all be proud of. So. All right, moving forward to the museum. Over the last year, we've had two pretty large exhibits. One was the Christmas exhibit, which was the Christmas in the Lyman Building, which is where the museum is located, and also the summer exhibit. The current summer exhibit is called The Hidden Lives of Objects. And the museum has so much in its collection that I thought maybe doing an exhibit on the stories of these objects. They were all locally donated, and kind of who they belong to and what their story is. And so this is a portion of the exhibit about Glenna, Michigan, and a lot of people comment on that because Glenna, Michigan played such a large role in the community for many years. This is kind of another portion, just different objects throughout the course. There's a malt machine that used to belong to the city drugstore. There's a banister from a house, that old mansion that was torn down. Just kind of neat stuff like that. There's a toilet seat that used to be at the museum in 1882 and 1885 or the early 1890s when the building was constructed. So just kind of a lot of neat curiosities. And we've had a great response from it, and a lot of people really get a kick out of it. So that's been our kind of headlining exhibit, and we've had a lot of interest into it. I have also given 10 lectures throughout the community over the past year. These range from a number of lectures, like the couple at the library, Orchard Beach. I gave a lecture in Mason County the other week. Lots of private groups, private organizations. So that's always kind of something fun to do, and there's always a lot of neat topics to talk about when we talk about our city's history. So, so I've continued to do that. Myself and Steve Harold have continued to write weekly historical articles for the Manistee News Advocate, and I've compiled daily history column for the News Advocate as well. This is something Steve started back in 1976, continues to this day, and because there's so much to talk about our city's history, and people usually have a lot of good things to say about it. So it's just a way to get visitors and residents alike kind of interested in our city and all of its history. Since last August, we've had about 2,850 visitors. That's roughly around average for the museum. And of those 2,850 visitors, 154 have been researchers. These people usually come in namely from out of town to research their family tree, to research various properties. They look at our old tax rolls that we have from the county offices to find what their tax value of their property was back in 1959, stuff like that. The history of their buildings, their homes, et cetera, et cetera. And that really requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it's also a lot of fun. And so that's something we continue to do for visitors. And it's only about 150 people, but people who come here from out of town, they spend money at the shops, they spend money in restaurants. Some of them, believe it or not, stay for 3 or 4 days doing family research. And that's money in the community. But it's always kind of a fun thing to do and to meet a lot of really interesting people. We also have put together, worked with the Visitor Center. They got a grant from the USDA to do a new history booklet of a walking tour of Manistee. And I worked with Right Side Design Group who put the book together. And I don't know if some of you have seen this around town. So there are over 100 properties in here, all through the city, and a number of them in the county. And about 25 of them have QR codes on them. And after the videos, there will be an accompanying video to the homes that have, or the structures that have the QR code, so people will be able to scan them with their phone or go on YouTube and listen to the script that I helped compile with the people who put this together. I did all the research for it and provided them with all the photographs. Tony Trucks, our local celebrity, did the voiceovers for them. So hopefully within another month or so, they'll all be finished. And so people will be able to walk by, say, the Babcock House, scan the book, and stand outside and watch the video on their phone. Let's just hope they don't do that at 2 o'clock in the morning. But it's really neat, and it was a lot of work, and that's something that the museum and myself have been busy doing over the past year. Here's just a couple inside pages of it. There are maps with corresponding numbers and the description. East homes, west homes, churches downtown, so on and so forth. In addition to the walking tours, the walking tour booklet, I last year for a number of weeks did walking tours of River Street. This wasn't just a portion of what's in the book. I researched every single building on River Street and provided tours to the public. I thought there would be about 10 or 15 people. I ended up with a number of groups with about 40 people. And about a 3-hour tour. My voice was hoarse by the end of it, but it was a lot of fun, and that's something that the museum and myself had a lot of fun in doing, and we hope to do them again in the near future. I was planning to do them again this summer, but as all things, time just gets away from you, and I haven't had the opportunity to do so. But I've done it for a number of private organizations as well who've requested it. I've also was a commentator for the Victorian Sleigh Bell Parade. They had a number of segments on the history of some of the downtown buildings, and I provided commentary for those. Lastly, we were lucky at the museum to have 3 interns over the past year, 2 high school students and 1 college student who were very interested in Manasee's history, and it's always neat to have younger people curious and interested in their hometown, and so we were very, very lucky to have that over the past year. So that's kind of about all I have. Are there any questions from council at all in regards to the museum? No?
I think you're doing a fabulous job with your.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good job. The amount of money that you guys bring in.
I appreciate
little
that.
bit, You do a phenomenal job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All the visitors I speak to, they speak remarkably well about going to the museum and being able to see things.
That's very nice to
and-
hear.
And the personnel that are there, so, you know, that's truly appreciated.
Thank you for passing that along. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
At this time, Ms. Stacy Whiteworth will report on activities of the Manistee Area Chamber of Commerce and respond to any questions the council may have regarding their activities.
Good evening, thank you. Okay. So thank you for inviting the Chamber of Commerce. I've got some copies for council members, some hard copies and some extra information for you as well. I just want to give you a quick overview of the Chamber before I go into the presentation. Our purpose is to provide leadership training and support in business, professional, and economic development that is instrumental to the success of its members and the community it represents. So our mission is to advance and support the interests of business in Manistee County. We are a county-wide chamber. And then just to give you an overview, here's our board of directors. Dennis McCarthy is our board chair this year, and we start on January 1 and it'll end through the December 31st. And we do have a wide range of board members. As you can see, we do have a city representative, Jeff McCula, sits on our board of directors, and then he also reports on board activity or city activities at our board meeting, as well as we have our largest employer that reports as well, and then the county board of commissioners report as well. So we do have a good cross sector of businesses throughout the county. Excellence achieved together was kind of our motto for the year. We're trying to take, obviously, Manistee County to the next level. So investing in your chamber, you invest in the economic business vitality of the region. We have 320 members strong right now. 26 of those members are corporate sponsors that give a larger amount to the chamber, and then they kind of decide what they want to see, you know, their dollars either go to sponsorship dollars, economic development, or other things in that realm. 86% of membership are businesses, and then we do have approximately 14% of our memberships are nonprofits and community organizations. And then here's just you might not be able to see it too well, but we kind of broke it down with our membership to kind of show you the different sectors of business that we have, whether it be retail, manufacturers, hospitality, government, education. So there is a wide range of businesses that are members in the Chamber of Commerce. And then chambers funded, there's three main funding sources that we receive. It's through our events, about 44%. And then almost 31% is through general memberships, and then different programs that we have through the chamber make up the remaining percentage. And I'll kind of go into the difference of the events and the programs. So we have many partnerships and collaborations with the chamber. I just wanted to highlight a few tonight. Obviously, locally, we partner and collaborate with the Alliance for Economic Success, the Manistee Downtown Development Authority, and then I sit on the Business Development Committee, and then I have a staff person that sits on the Marketing and Promotions Committee. And then we work closely with the Manistee Area Public Schools video production class, and then the Manistee County Visitors Bureau, and then Launch Manistee, and then the college. And regionally and statewide, we belong to the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, which I'll touch further on a little more about what that is further in the presentation. And then the Networks Northwest Prosperity Board, which is a 10-county region. And then I've just been put on the finance committee for that group as well. And then the West Michigan Chamber Network, which is, we are the highest county down through this, I think they go down to Allegan County and over. So there's about 30 chamber directors and presidents in that group as well. And then the chamber celebrated last year 100 years, so we're in our 101st year. So I just wanted a quick recap of kind of some of the instrumental things that we've done over the course of our 100+ years. The Manistee National Forest Festival, the Manistee County Airport, Manistee Municipal Marina, the Victorian Sleigh Bell Parade, and the Coast Guard Station. Those are some things that still have a great impact today that the chamber was behind when those items got started. And then this is kind of a breakdown of the different chamber programs and events. So we are fairly busy throughout the year. In orange, I've highlighted the different events that the chamber puts on, and then the programs are obviously in the blue. So I'll go into a couple different things with those. So the annual meeting and business awards dinner we had back in November of 16. We give away these different awards to our business community, and we went with a red carpet theme. We worked with the videography class through Manistee High School, and we did they went out and interviewed different businesses that were nominated and really engaged them. And we had 220 people attend that event, so it was well attended. It was held at the Casino Event Center. So I encourage anyone, if they're able to come to this year's event, it's a really nice event to support our business community. And then business after hours, we hold those monthly. Usually we have about 10 a year. It's a great opportunity to network with the businesses and different cross-sector of people, and then also highlight the different locations and sponsors that we hold those at. So we try to move them around. We've had one at the airport. We've had one at Reamer Eye Center. We did a block party this year celebrating the college's 50th anniversary. And then we have obviously the St. Patty's Day one that's pretty fun that people like to attend. So those are really good events that obviously people can network at and get connected with one another. And they're also fun too. And then the 2017 Business and Career Expo, historically that's always been in the fall. We moved it to the spring in 16, and we've partnered with Launch Manistee, and what they do is they bring in all the juniors and seniors from all 6 district high schools, and they are prepared and ready to go to meet with the businesses to learn about what potential job offers, whether it's seasonal or if there's a career that they have after college or after high school that they can get into, because we really want to push that, workforce development, that we do have that in our own community here. We do have good jobs, And obviously, we are, you know, a lot of seasonal jobs. Our businesses need more of the workforce, so we want to get them in March, right when they're fresh, before we hit the ground running for the seasonal time. And then just to recap, we had 51 booths at there, 150 exhibitors, 500 county or Manistee County students went through that expo, along with pulling some from Mason County. We had over 30 volunteers, and then 200 of the general public came in looking for jobs as well. And then we also did something kind of unique this year, is we partnered with the Manistee County Blacker Airport. So if you were one of the first 25 booths to sign up, they gave you 2 tickets to the airport at a very, very low rate. So that was really cool to have that partnership with them. So on the, with that event, we focus on workforce development, connecting potential employees with employers, education and training, and then just the business to business, because we all know our business community, they're extremely busy within themselves. So it's a nice opportunity for them to kind of get out and learn about the other businesses throughout the county. And then there's just kind of some pictures from the event, kind of showcases. It was pretty full, you know, with all the students there. Engaged, got a lot of great feedback from the businesses that attended the expo. And then another thing we've been really working on hard is the Government Affairs Committee. We meet once a month on Thursdays, and we've started a Government Affairs outreach program. So instead of holding it at the same location every month, we're actually moving around the county to different townships, county commissioners. We've held one at City Council, and Mayor Smith was a speaker at that one. So we're trying to get out and learn about, you know, maybe different challenges or things that the Government Affairs Committee can help out with. We do have about 15 members on that committee from all over the county, so it's a good cross-sector of representatives. And then the other neat thing we did in January is we joined the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, which that's an alliance with Northern Michigan. We're the farthest south county, but it's 9 other partner chambers that are in that, all the way up to Marquette. And then we held an event with Representative Vanderwall called Pints and Politics. We're going to try to do 2 of those annually. So that one was held in March, and we're looking at late October, November to hold the next one with him. And then this is kind of a quick overview of our legislative priorities with the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance. We have an agenda setting meeting that we hold at the end of the year. So we'll have one I think it's in November this year, and we'll set our agenda items for the incoming 2018. And if you look at some of the items, rural development and housing incentives, infrastructure, and improving Northern Michigan business climate, those are things that we all face the challenges all through Northern Michigan, so it's not just Manistee County. So it's nice to have those other collaborative efforts with those other chamber presidents, so a bigger voice that we can have in Lansing. And then the first half of 2016, we attended the State of the State Alliance trip. Back in January, we had a governor and lieutenant governor staff appreciation luncheon where we met all the governor's staff. The lieutenant governor came to that. We had, and we went to the AT&T reception with a lot of legislators. We actually got to watch the State of the State address, and then attended the governor's reception after that. And then also we had a legislative breakfast held with 9 senators and representatives to kind of conclude that trip. And then we did go back down to Lansing in May with 8 of our chamber presidents. We met with 20 senators, representatives, and staff. So that was a pretty packed trip that we had. And then we held a legislative reception with all of them to conclude that trip as well. And then we had a Northern Michigan Chamber Incentive Summit, or Northern Michigan Incentive Summit, that was held on June 12th in Gaylord, and that was a part of the Alliance group putting that on. And we did have City Manager Thad Taylor there, Denise Blakesley, and then Tyler from the DDA attended that as well with me. And then that drew over 50 people from around the 9 chambers. So the next thing we're really been working on, we're going to start our 3rd year for the Manistee County Leadership Program. So I've kind of touched on, it's a 9-month program. We go all over the county. We do a 2-day retreat with potential leaders or incoming leaders with each business, and then we have a wrap-up that takes place in May. So we're trying to build leaderships to gain knowledge about the different areas and sectors all over the county, so that if they sit in maybe a council member seat, or they're a county commissioner, or they sit on the chamber board, DDA, CVB, et cetera, that they have a good background on anything from education to history to government and justice. So we're trying to really build that program up. So last year, these are the different participants. I won't go through them, but we had started out with 13, and then we ended up with 12 participants in the program. Someone moved halfway through the year, but there's a good cross sector again of, you know, nonprofits to financial institutions. We had Bruce Banks from the city of Manistee, so I thank you for putting him through that program. And then they were charged with a project. The city of Manistee actually submitted an application because we do a community project with that group. And they picked the city of Manistee's project out of a total of 4 projects. So they held on May 9th at the Historic Vogue Theater, Imagine Manistee community event. For the general public, what did they want to see with Manistee? Over 100 people participated, and they did a live survey so you could see the results at that event. And they did come to City Council and present that on June 26th. And then I just want to take a couple highlights from that survey. The ethnic food was ranked number 1 for the eating category that they had. The closed street events ranked number 2 in the entertainment category, and I think we had a successful one that just took place last Friday. So that was good for that. And then the business, they wanted businesses open later more consistently. And then more market-based and affordable housing ranked in the top 5 for living downtown. And then lastly, Dogs on the Riverwalk ranked in the top 5 for the recreation category. So they surveyed, they had over 100 people participate in that. So it was kind of neat to see some of those results and what people want to see in their community. And then just to go into a quick recap of some of the chamber events that we put on, obviously the Manistee National Forest Festival. It celebrated 81 years this year. We had over 35 events, over hundreds of volunteers, 15 community organizations that participated in those 35 events. That's some of their biggest fundraisers for the year. And then information provided by MEDC Pure Michigan that each visitor that comes into our area spends $142 per visit. And if you take the 25,000 calculated visitors, that's over $3 million brought into our community by that festival. So that's a huge impact that has. And then Grapes on the River, we just held that festival, or event, I should say, on Saturday. We partnered with Downtown Sidewalk Sales to try to engage more people to come in to that event over that weekend. We had 8 wineries, 2 breweries, a distillery, and then 3 restaurants in attendance for that. And then over 22 volunteers, and we estimate around 350 people came to that event. And then the next one we'll have will be Festival of Trees, but in 2016 we had 1,500 people walk through the Ramsdale Theater. Over 108 businesses decorated different trees and items for that festival. And then we donated to 3 community organizations. So I want to touch on Manistee National Forest Festival since it is kind of a staple for the community. I had 2 businesses come to me, and they mentioned that for one, Kendra, who is the owner of Douglas Valley Winery downtown, said that they've never been open on a Sunday, but they had their best sales ever, so now she's going to be open on Sundays, which is awesome to hear that we'll have some more businesses open on a Sunday. Talked to Nicole Knapp, who's works with Fillmore. She had the best sales in Fillmore history the Sunday before the 4th of July. She said sales were up 31%. So events are having a huge impact in our community. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think that is really important. And, you know, we appreciate all our sponsors that help make those events, as well as our volunteers, because it brings our community together, and then the city of Manistee for helping us with our needs for that. And then charitable giving and donations. These are over the last year, these are all the organizations that the chamber's donated to. So over $6,000 we put back locally into these organizations. And then these are just a couple photos from different check presentations that we've done. And then another thing the chamber does is ribbon cutting ceremonies for new businesses in town. So if you look at all those, that's quite a range of different businesses that we've done ribbon cuttings for back through April through June of this year. The ones in orange are the ones in the city limits, so we are excited to have that many new businesses that have opened or either taken new ownership. And then this just kind of a recap. If you're a general member of the chamber, these are different benefits that you would receive through the chamber. And then just a big thank you to the city for all the support that you give to the chamber and being members, and then having a board member on there and putting someone through the leadership program. So that's our contact information. If you're able to get a hold of us, that's how you can find us. So, do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Great contribution to the community.
Thank you for working out the Lions fish boil. I know it was probably hectic. I appreciate you guys working so hard.
Thank you. Yep, we worked, we definitely worked that out and had come to a good agreement, so I think we'll be set for the future.
Good,
So,
thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Thank you.
You're gonna be available next Tuesday.
Monday's better,
Monday's better.
yeah, but Tuesday would have to be, like, I would be here at 7.
Monday okay with you?
Yeah. Or if it's not, you know, obviously, we're the only two here. If Tuesday works better for you, I would be here at like 7:01.
Okay.
Because of the kids and Christian work and that kind of thing.
Tuesday,
Can
Richie.
we do 7:30?
yeah. Why don't we tentatively look at next Tuesday at 7:30? So we can get the proper notices out and stuff, and I'll coordinate with the other council members. Councilmember Pontiac is at the hospital with her older son, and they may be going to transport him to DeVos Children's Center. That's why she's not here. We were aware of the other council members not being, but I was not aware that we wouldn't have a quorum until I received that email. So everybody keep Councilmember Pontiac and her son Nolan in their thoughts and prayers, please. With that, staff, Mr. Bradford,
Nothing more, Your Honor.
Mr. Saylor,
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
City Clerk, Public Safety Director, City Engineer.
Nothing.
Nothing. I think, I don't know, can we do concerns, comments from the community?
Yeah, we get some, yes, please. Any comments from the community, please come forward. State your name and address.
My name is Bernie Summers. I'm the commander of the Salt City Disabled American Veterans Chapter. And on your agenda today was a request to approve our fundraising activity this coming Friday and Saturday. And I would like to know whether it's okay to proceed with that or not.
Mr. Saylor?
Not sure, what is the,
They're having a sales, or their fundraiser, like, was it the poppy sales?
No, it's the,
I haven't looked at that, Mayor. I would assume there's some way for us to authorize that. It's just authorizing them to sell at the various locations in the city. Is that what we're talking? We look at that and we can communicate back to them. I just haven't even looked at that
Okay.
issue.
we'll get back to you on that.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I would yes, we'll get back to you tomorrow, so.
Yes, we'll take a look at it and maybe you can, I don't know if who in city staff is communicating that. Is that you, Michelle?
Yeah, I'll get your contact information before you leave, and we'll get back with you tomorrow. We'll get back with you tomorrow, but I need to get your contact information, your phone number, so we can call you and let you know.
I'm looking microphone, I would just like to make sure that folks know what we do here. This chapter of the Disabled American Veterans has purchased 3 vans that are used to provide free transportation for veterans to get to medical appointments as far away as Detroit or Ann Arbor or Saginaw, as well as the closer ones at Cadillac and Grayling and Gaylord and Traverse City. So that's one of the things we do for the community. And we also provide scholarships for close family members of disabled veterans from this area. And we also provide direct assistance to veterans in need when we discover there's a need, and typically they amount to buying some groceries or fuel or whatever that a veteran needs to get done. Recently, we helped get the power turned back on at a veteran's house that had been turned off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other citizen comments? I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's good to see Commissioner Goodman here, our DDA director. Other guests, thank you for being here. Good presentation tonight. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Or adjourn?
Geez, for a while there, I was Mayor Pro Tem.
How'd it feel, man?
I didn't like it.
You like it?
No.